Today on Inside Utah Politics, the race in Utah's 3rd Congressional District. Representative John Curtis is going for his first full term, and Democrat James Singer is hoping to pull the upset. We're checking in with both candidates. Plus, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is again publicly weighing in on the medical cannabis ballot initiative. Our panel debates the controversial issue.
Time now for Inside Utah Politics.
Good Sunday morning, and thanks so much for joining us for Inside Utah Politics. I'm Glenn Mills. We begin with Representative John Curtis. Representative Curtis, great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for your time today.
Absolutely.
So you've been in office about 10 months now. Kind of goes by fast, but it seems like you were just doing this not too long ago, because you were. When voters take a look at your 10 months in office, what do you think they should look at and say, this guy deserves another term?
I would ask them to look at two things. What is, number one is, what are we getting done? This upcoming Tuesday, we'll have my 4th bill go to the House floor. The first 3 passed with unanimous votes, and I think this one will as well. These are all issues dealing with important Utah issues. The other thing is the outreach that we've done. People know that I do a lot of town hall meetings. I like that. We're actually averaging 10 per month. And I think we're working very hard to be in tune with our constituents and let them know what I'm doing.
I want to dig into the town halls a little more in a bit, but first let's take a closer look at some of the bills you've passed.
Right.
As you mentioned, you've already passed 3 in 10 months, bipartisan support. What do you credit that for, being able to get, because if I remember right, I mean, these votes haven't even been close.
No, the first one was 382 to 6 that passed through the House. The others went by voice vote in near unanimous fashion. I'd credit that, first of all, to a great team that I have, and then an ability to understand how we can impact Utah. This bill that I have coming up Tuesday is a small business bill impacting small business loans. And we learned about that problem from a constituent that came to our office and brought that to our attention, and the team jumped right on it, and here we are with the bill about ready to pass through the House.
Let's talk about the POPI Act.
Yes.
Obviously, a huge impact here on the state of Utah. It has to do with the opioid epidemic. We're just being devastated by that here.
Yes.
What would that do for our state?
Well, I learned, sadly, that 1 in 5 women are prescribed an opioid in pregnancy across the United States. And if you think that's bad, our average is almost double here in Utah. And so the bill that we put together simply asks for study to get the heart of that. What's going on? Why is that happening? Those are some answers we need to have so we can move forward.
Rural broadband, also an issue you've been working on. That's one of your bills. Obviously, a big concern here in the state of Utah.
Do you know it can take up to 9 years to permit rural broadband because it goes across federal land? And in our economies right now in the rural areas, that's just not acceptable. So the bill that just passed the House last week addresses that and speeds up that permitting process.
Is that what this is all about, is extending Utah's economy where it's really good into parts where it's struggling?
Exactly. Much of my district is not enjoying the economy that we are here in Utah County and Salt Lake County. And we've got to figure out a way to connect these 2 economies. I
want to talk to you also about a bill that hasn't come up yet for a vote, the gun legislation you're working on. It's in response to the mass shootings we're seeing across the country. What would it do?
Let me first of all say that after that Florida shooting, I just have been haunted with what is my role in this? How can I help? I've got an experience in firearms and a background in that, you know that, and felt like that should put me in a position to be a leader. So I've worked with other members back there, and we have the bill that I'm really pleased with. It gives tools to the local people to identify those people who could be a harm to themselves or others and make sure that they don't have a firearm. But it does it in a very careful way that doesn't impinge on the Second Amendment, and I'm really pleased with that.
Dig into that a little more, because we had a similar bill up on the Utah Hill recently, and that was the feedback. You know, you start with this, it's a slippery slope. You're going to start with this and then go after guns in other ways after that. And that's really why this bill failed last year. Don't
be stunned, the NRA actually endorses this bill. And the reason why is the proper due process. That's what was missing in the Utah bill. It's all about giving the due process and making sure that we're not rushing in and taking somebody's firearm away just because a neighbor accused them of something, and that's the key.
So what would the due process include? Court ordered?
Yes, absolutely, and you got to go to a judge with evidence that somebody actually is a harm to themselves. If you look at the Florida situation...
That's what I was just going to bring up, posts on YouTube and whatnot that really raised red flags.
Yeah, and what happened in that case is there were laws in Florida that would have allowed law enforcement to take away that firearm, but they didn't use them, and you have to ask why not. It's because they would have had to charge him with a felony. And law enforcement is hesitant to charge a teen with a felony. This allows them to do that without using that felony tool in a way that's in harmony with due process.
Back to the town halls. You have been holding a lot of them. Do you find them effective?
I love them.
Why?
It gives people a chance to just speak to me in a close environment where I can listen, and people are dying for that connection with us.
Do you feel the majority of those people there are there for sincere reasons, or just to straight up
I've been very
resist
fortunate.
Things you've
no,
been
I've been
on?
very fortunate. The people coming to my town hall meetings are coming with good intent. They want to do two things. One is they want to express their feelings to me, and they want me to be accountable to them for what I'm doing in Washington. And there's no better accountability than me sitting like 3 feet away from somebody and looking them in the eye and telling them how I voted on something or what my position is. And it really holds me accountable. I think it's fantastic.
Let's turn to Utah County fires, two devastating ones happening right now. A lot of blame being pointed on to the federal government, especially from the Utah County commissioners. At least one of them I heard speaking, saying, after this is over, we need to take a look at how they are accountable in this situation. Your thoughts on that?
Well, he's right. And I will tell you this, that we need to applaud the recent actions of the Forest Service and everybody involved in putting out these fires once they reached this climax. I mean, the response down there has been amazing. It's the #1 priority in the United States. We have people out there on the ground doing amazing work, and I wouldn't want that to be neglected because of these other problems. Once the fire's under control, we're all going to turn our attention to these questions, and they're hard questions. I do think it's important that we do so with an open mind, really realizing there's always two sides to an issue, and let's make sure we understand what those are and make sure we have that accountability in there. And another thing that's just critical is once the fires are out, there's still a lot of work to do. We've got mudslide potentials, and we've got to make sure that we're addressing those. One thing the Forest Service says is, look, we understand that this is bad, but this is the way we approach most fires. I think what people need to understand, and I'm not here to defend them, they'll have their opportunity to do that themselves, but people need to realize they're making a decision with the best information they have at the time. They're taking into consideration the lives of firefighters. We lost a firefighter, and so you don't do this lightly, right? And they have to make decisions about resources. They have other fires in the state, and where do they pull people off and put them in other places? And I think it's important that we give them a time to answer those questions and that everybody gets their questions answered. Representative John Curtis, we're coming down the stretch. Ballots will be coming out in a couple of weeks. As always, appreciate your time. Thanks for being with us. Thanks, Glenn. Keep it right here. We will hear from Democratic challenger James Singer right after the break.